It's moving pretty fast out there. He's coming back to get us soon. Until then, how are we as Christians supposed to act in the political climate of the day? Look no further. The answer is here. A powerful podcast of patriotic political pastoral pontification. Hey, that's pretty good. Inspired from heavenly places with great wisdom of the ages and thoughts that have liberals running for cover. It's the Pop and Me Podcast. Ast. That is not a cuss word. That's echoes. It's echoing. Shut up.
Yeah. And so we were just talking, I'm going to pop this picture back up. Where we were at was we're talking about this guy, President Trump, and this guy's name's James Bosenberg. He's the district federal court judge, Washington, D.C. And we were talking about overreach. And I was just about to say, look at him. He even looks like an evil dude. I mean, he's just got evil written on his face. I know we're not supposed to judge a book by his cover, but ew. Anyway, the whole point of the matter, let me run this by you, Pop. What do you think about this? You know, the Supreme Court just ruled that a president cannot be held for his actions that he fulfills in his capacity as president. So why not just ignore this judge's order? What do you think about that possibility?
Because they don't want to appear to be like the Biden administration was, who actually did ignore judges' orders.
Right.
And, you know, we have a system and it's supposed to be followed. The problem we have here is that within the system, we have a judge who's overstepping his bounds. He might be a federal judge, but this is way outside of his I don't know what you even call it, but his
jurisdiction. I mean, his
area of responsibility is way outside of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I heard, I was listening to I may have sent it to you earlier, but I was listening to a CNN interview with a White House lawyer about this, and the White House lawyer is quoting law just every other, you know, he's just giving law after law after law that says, you know, you can't, that a judge can't interfere with international treaties and international events between countries. That's the president's, you know, purview. And that's what we have going on. We have a judge who says he's more important than the president.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court really needs to step in and rein these district judges in.
Right.
And good or not, because our Supreme Court seems to be a little I don't know, can't the proper word, but
wonky. It is not what we thought it was going to be, for sure.
Well,
and
our Supreme Court, you know, if you look at the numbers, it should be a 6-3 vote on everything, but it never is.
Right. Yeah. Well, Amy Coney Barrett is a disappointment. I'm just going to put it out there.
Disappointment.
Oh, terrible. But he's been for a long time. Well, and here's the deal is this guy's not even on the Supreme Court. This is a federal district judge. So let me give you a couple things I looked up. In the past, we have had presidents that have completely ignored the Supreme Court. Jefferson ignored the Supreme Court. He was ordered to produce documents, and he just said to John Marshall, I'm not going to do it. Andrew Jackson, that same Supreme Court judge, I love what he said. He said, John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it. You know, basically saying.
Court basically has no enforcement power beyond a ruling.
Yeah. But I think you're right.
The downside to that, though, is our rule of law has to be followed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Wrong, like in this case, you need to go through the courts to get it right because of the way we're set up. If we just ignore it, who are we?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what Trump is doing. He's setting a precedent that, hey, we're going to do this the right way. We're not just going to. Now, I will tell you, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a plane that had already taken off when this judge made his ruling. And he said, if it's in the air, turn it around and bring it back. And they said, hey, look, when that ruling went into effect, they were in international water, over international waters already. And the president of El Salvador, or wherever they were sending him, I think it was El Salvador. It wasn't this guy. It was the group of Venezuelan thugs that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But he wrote a tweet that said, "What's that?"
It was a New York judge that made that ruling. A New York district judge.
Yes, another district judge. And the the president of El Salvador put out a tweet, said, "Oops. Okay, hold on. I gotta let you know something. When for some reason this program overrides you, you're gonna hate this when I'm talking. So I have to really keep my eye on you, because if I'm talking and you talk, it all I see is your mouth moving. It's not making any noise. So say again what you just said, or do you remember?"
Number one, quit talking when I'm talking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think it was a New York judge, and there's over 600 of those guys. Those district judges all around the country.
Yeah. So you think this is just Soros money?
Well,
Lawfare?
Judges, presidents appoint judges, and Congress has to, or not Congress, but Senate has to endorse them, basically vote for them. But it is I don't know. It's judges practicing their liberal agenda from the bench, and it's wrong.
Well, but let's stick on this. You tell me what you think. Yes, presidents appoint judges, but just like this New York judge is an Obama appointee, and they're getting Soros money. They're being paid to make certain kinds of rulings, don't you think?
Can't prove that, but believe that.
Yeah, I wish they would, and I hopefully Pam Bondi and some of these folks will look into that heavily.
And I don't believe at this point, I don't believe anybody's been getting George Soros money. I believe they've been getting taxpayer dollars through USA, is what I believe everybody's been getting. That's how they come up here through Central America and through Mexico. That's how they paid the rioters. If they really get to searching all this stuff, that's what they're going to find.
Yeah. And don't you think some of this money is also that money that we sent to Ukraine? It's been funneled back around into different areas that's being spent and kept and put in savings, and
a lot of that also lands in politicians' pockets and stays there.
I think so too.
But they send this money back to their foundations, and if you go look, they all have a foundation.
Yeah, and who showed them how to do that? That was the Clintons, huh? They really got that started.
Sure did.
Yeah. So we're talking about, I want to go now and just kind of segue into this Venezuelan gang deal that we've got some people that are up in arms about, and Trump's trying to get these guys out of here. And of course he has initiated, what was it? The powers, some kind of War Powers Act, that Trump is using.
1786.
I thought I had a picture, up here. I'm going to try to find it so I can pop this up. Of what they were doing. You and I were talking about this earlier, that when they get these guys in there, they there we go. I'm going to put this up here. Look, here's a picture of these guys. I don't know if you're seeing this, but tell me again, so that these folks know, how are they processing these gang members down there when they get them?
Well, what we saw out of El Salvador was they brought a plane load of them into El Salvador there, and the El Salvadoran looked like the Salvadoran army to me, but they came out there single file, marching in line, and then they went two men at a time, went on the plane, took off one prisoner, brought him out, bent over, handcuffed, shoved him into a bus, and went back and got another one.
They weren't playing games.
So they're not being not being nice to them.
Yeah. And so what I understand is we have this deal with El Salvador and the president of the United States and the president of El Salvador, that they're going to take these criminals and they're going to take care of them. And so, we've shipped off a bunch of them. And the president is basically saying, under this War Powers Act, we're at war with some of these illegal immigrants. You and I were talking about this earlier, that what was the group you were talking about?
The Trende.
We weren't pronouncing it very well, were we? Trende Aragua or something like that?
How you say it, but
Trende Aragua.
They're a Venezuelan gang who has, over the last few years, actually, they've expanded. They're about 5,000 members strong. they've expanded throughout Latin America, and now they're in the United States due to the Venezuelan refugee crisis. Now, people were leaving Venezuela because I think they were having a food crisis because their socialist government crashed and their economy crashed. And so people's trying to leave the country because they were eating their dogs and everything else a couple of years ago there. So people are doing all they can to leave the country. And I get that. I absolutely get people wanting to get out.
Yeah.
But they're traveling through countries that they could live in and traveling all the way to the United States, and they all show up here with, by the way, with brand new iPhones and brand new clothes and all these kind of good things.
Yeah.
But, and I believe USAID's been paying for all that. But these Trinidad Arawa, how do you say it? These are their activities: murder, protection racketing, drug trafficking, human trafficking, forced prostitution, human smuggling, kidnapping for ransom, retail theft, robbery, illegal mining, bribery, and money laundering. And that's probably just, that's
skimming the surface.
These people are evil, and they're coming here, and I forget what, maybe it was in Arizona. There was a whole apartment complex in Arizona where
right.
Was that where it was?
Yeah, that's the same folks that took over those apartment
apartments, and they basically kicked people out they didn't want there, and they were basically re-renting the apartments out to people they wanted to be there, and the police couldn't even go in there.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're dealing with, and these people didn't come here legally; they came here illegally, which is a problem.
Yeah. Listen to this. I did a little search in here. Just a little thing I'm going to read here. The gang largely controlled the Tocaron prison, where it ran a zoo, a swimming pool, a disco, a restaurant, and a bar. From behind bars, its leaders ordered robberies, kidnappings, and murders. And so this is not. Go ahead.
Prisons, their headquarters.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did not come here to be part of the American dream, did they?
No, they came here to make an American nightmare. Is what they did.
So let me ask you this: do you think Congress? I mean, President Trump's moving fast. His people are moving fast. Why doesn't Congress just come out and say, "Look, we're going to initiate. Here's a bill, the Emergency War Powers Act of 2025, giving President Trump, the authority to deport
remove
any."
Legals he finds,
and for 4 years, and it ends at the end of 4 years. That doesn't extend to any other president. It's just during this term while we fight this illegal immigration problem. Why don't they just come out and do that on the floor tomorrow and get it done? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I've wondered that myself. Why we're not seeing Congress move real fast on anything so far.
Right. That's what
yeah. They did pass his continuing budget
resolution thing, yeah.
And I didn't like it. You didn't like it, but it is. I understand a little better now. It was one of those things that needed to get done to make it to next year, basically, when we have an opportunity to do a real budget.
Yeah.
The thing is, I heard this a couple of years ago. There hasn't really been a budget passed in our nation in like 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
They keep doing continuing resolutions, and when they do a continuing resolution, they just stack some more junk on top of it.
Right. Yeah.
It grows and it grows and it grows, and it's become this massive, spending bill that nobody even knows what's in it, kind of thing.
Right.
A 1,000-page bill on everybody's desk and say we're voting on it in an hour. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And they've been doing that for a long time. And we're working with trillions of dollars now, folks. We can't wrap our minds around that number.
No, a trillion is 1,000 billion, and I don't even know how much that is.
Yeah.
A billion is 1,000 million. I mean, these numbers. I mean, that sounds like not a lot, but but when you consider it, it's unreal the amount of money that is being wasted, and we discussed this last week with the whole, or week before last with the whole Doge department and what they're doing as far as that money. And I say go after all you can find and expose what's going on. By the way, there's judges today who shut that down, you know. And
Yeah.
again, the judge, and here's what he did. He shut it down. He says, I don't think, not I know, I don't think they have the constitutional authority to do this. Well, I've never heard of a judge make a ruling that says, I don't think they have the authority to do this. He either knows or he doesn't know. And by saying, I don't think, it tells me he knows they have the authority to do what they're doing. He's just trying to throw a cog in the works.
Yeah.
And it's pathetic. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it's just like we were talking about earlier. It's lawfare, and it's all they have left. And what I want to know is why would they fight this so hard? Now let me do something first. I want to give us an idea of numbers that we're dealing with when we talk about trillions. Okay. So I just looked this up real quick. All right. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days. Okay. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years. Now listen to this. 1,000,000,000,000 seconds is 31,000 years.
Yes.
Okay, that's the vastness of the numbers that we are talking about here. And so what we've got going on as Christians, and that's what our show tries to do. We try to come on here and say, here's what's going on. What should we as Christians? Well, we've got a bunch of even friends of ours that are coming up with this verse that you mentioned earlier, Leviticus 19:33 through 34. And I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then you kind of give us your take on how this applies to the situation. It says, and if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, you shall not vex him, but the stranger that dwelleth with you, you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but go ahead and kind of run us through.
Well, what you said based on what we've been discussing, that verse, of course, I have a more modern version that says, when an alien lives in your land, do not mistreat him.
Yeah.
I don't think we should mistreat anybody. That's just not the right thing to do. I mean, we're not supposed to be that kind of people.
Right.
But now I remember the Cambodian boat people. I remember when a lot of the Taiwanese people came over here, and what angered people is that the government, and this is what always happens with the government messes it up. But the government would give these people millions upon, hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever, to start their own business, to do this, to do that. And what they ended up doing is they ended up putting a lot of the American shrimp boats in here in Louisiana and different places like that. They put those people out of business because I saw it in the nursery business up in Forest Hill, where I grew up. The government gives people, a grant of $1 million to go start a business, a grant now, not a loan, to go start a business. And what they end up doing is they come in, they undercut the prices on everything so that they sell theirs faster and cheaper than everybody else does.
Right.
But the problem is you can do that if you don't have to pay the money back.
Yeah.
And so I understand the angst of Americans who are dealing with these issues. And I get with a sympathetic heart and as a Christian that, we should do what we can to help these. We don't want these people on our welfare roll, so we need to help them get established and, be in business for themselves. We do.
If they come here legally.
We're fixing to get to that. And if they come here legally, the problem we have now, especially with like these gangs and different ones, they didn't come here legally. And while they're here, they're not following our laws.
Right.
We know from reporters who have actually said something about this, that basically places like Venezuela who didn't have the money anyway. So what did Venezuela? They opened their prison doors and let them all out. Just said,
right.
Don't stay here.
Yeah.
We know every country in Central America, maybe even in Mexico, they just send them all up here to us.
Yep.
Our crime rate has soared, especially in the big cities. And I don't like going anywhere near a big city myself these days because of those issues.
Yeah.
But our crime rate has soared. I mean, right here where I live, yesterday they arrested 11 illegal aliens at our port here in Lake Charles. Now, my problem with that is to work at the port or any facility that in Lake Charles area that touches water, which is 99% of the plants we have down there, which is a lot of chemical plants around Lake Charles. In order to work there, you have to have what's called a TWIC card. It's a Transportation Workers Identification Card. And this TWIC card is not an easy thing to get. Man, they look, even people who've been born here, lived here their whole life, it's almost like you're getting, some high level security clearance to have one of these cards. And now we have illegal aliens who have these TWIC cards.
Yeah, how they
here, well, I would probably tell you if they had a card, they were false.
Yeah.
About them. And somebody somewhere is getting them made for them. And, there's people anywhere who do something for money. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
But we have those kind of things going on. We have these violent criminals who are coming into this nation. They came in illegally. They've made no attempt to live a life that says, hey, I just want to live here and raise my kids here and be part of the country. They haven't done that. The other problem I have with that verse you're talking about is the context is Israel is if there's an illegal alien or an alien period, we won't use the word illegal in this case, but there's an alien period living in Israel during this biblical time. They had to follow the law of Moses to the letter.
Right.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
No working on the Sabbath. No doing this. No doing that. You couldn't break these laws either.
Yeah.
Give you a free pass.
Right.
And so many of them think they get a free pass, and then there's the whole issue of Social Security, and so many of these people are coming to signing up on welfare and Social Security. And we found out through DOGE, we found out that FEMA money that should have been going to help storm victims was actually being used to house these illegals all across the country, not in just a Motel 6, mind you, but in some of the finest hotels in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's wrong. It is.
Yeah. And the thing about it is I want to make this very clear. Personally, we are supposed to treat every individual that we come across. We need to make sure that they're safe, they're fed. We treat them just like this Bible verse says. Like you said, they're responsible to follow our laws and our ways. They're supposed to come in and be a part of what's going on. They've broken that the minute that they do it illegally. It seems like everybody wants to just ignore the fact that their very first act in this country was to break the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just ignore it.
That same passage of scripture, if you go on down to the last verse of the chapter, verse 37 says, keep all my laws and decrees and follow them. I am the Lord. So
right.
God meant for the alien living in the land as well as the Israelite living in the land to follow his laws. And if the alien living in the land didn't like that rule, he had to, go back to where you came from. That's the opportunity. Not that anybody mistreated him, not that anybody misused him, but you got to follow the law. And these people are coming into our country. Number one, they broke the law when they came. There are people all over the world who are trying to do it legally and come here, through true immigration, not through sneaking in the back door.
Right. Yeah.
And these people are still waiting in line while these people over here are just coming in. And they're not just coming in, they're enjoying the benefit of welfare, which they've never, attributed to. And they're only going to continue to draw this welfare for as long as they can.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. Wrong with our whole immigration policy. We really do.
And even these folks that come in and they want to bring in this verse, they want to pick and choose, because if you back up just a little bit, verse 11 of that same chapter says, do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. Then goes on to say that they're supposed to follow those. Well, they've already lied and deceived and stolen.
Right. And that's the point. They've already broken the law. They've already done these things. So quit doing it. You know,
Yeah.
if you can't not do it, our law says you got to go back where you came from. Just
Right.
like talking about out of Columbia University, who's out in the streets protesting against Israel, who is a friend of this country,
Yeah.
and for Hamas, who is an enemy to everybody.
Mm.
And now he's shocked because they're going to send him back to wherever it was he came from. You know, I don't even know what country he came out of.
Syria. He's a Syrian national. Yeah.
Going to send him back to wherever he came from. Exactly what needs to happen to it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't put him on a plane and send him home. That's all we got to do. There's no mistreating there. It's just, okay, you're not going to come here and bash our country and us, you know, say, oh, it's all good because, you know, you're here legally. No, that's not how that works. The purpose of a green card is to come here and work. And you can't break the laws while you got that green card.
Yeah, I think Mark Rubio did a good job the other day when he was confronted and he said, look, if this person, this guy right here would have come to us and said, hey, I want a green card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to do all the things that he's been doing, we wouldn't have given him a green card, you know?
Right.
So revoke it, send him home.
What he said, that's the only way you get a green card. I'm going to come in and work, or I'm going to come in and go to school. Is the only two ways you get a green card.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go to school, you have to have a means to pay for your schooling. You can't just come here and live off the government, even though maybe he did. But you know, it's the law, and he broke the law.
Yeah.
Broke his green card and sent him home. The same happened to any other illegal alien or any other alien who came here legally and broke the law. They would send him home.
Yeah.
I live down here in South Louisiana. We're right next door to Texas. We see this happen quite often with people coming out of Mexico, and if they break the law, they send them home. You know, since I was a kid, we've been having an issue with a lot of illegal aliens coming in here and working. And up in the Forest area where I grew up, there's nurseries there, and they would come in and work in those nurseries. And every once in a while, immigration or ICE or whoever, I don't think ICE was formed back then, but I think back then services. But immigration services would come in and round them up, put them on a bus, and take them back to Mexico.
Right. Yeah.
Because they weren't here legally.
Yeah, and this is the thing we've heard from the Democrat Party recently over and over and over. I can't believe they get away with it, because if we were to say something like this, we would be racist, you know. But they'll get up and they'll say, "Hey, if these folks don't come in, who's gonna pick our fruit? Who's gonna work these jobs in these factories?" I mean, can you get more racist?
If it was said about a black man by a Republican, they'd be wanting to hang him.
Yeah.
But or cancel him or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But because a Democrat says it about a Latino, it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
Consumer can say it and it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Right. I want to go ahead.
You know, you can say what you want, but I can't say anything. That's a bunch of malarkey, and it needs to cease.
I'm looking up, you know, this guy this Al Green guy that got up on the floor. I'm trying to think. He said something that I was hoping I would find this, his quote, but he basically said he was talking about letting these folks come in, and he said the African American male in the United States of America is not at the intellectual level where they will pick fruit and stuff anymore. So we've got to have, you know, he's basically saying we've moved beyond that. So we've got to have the Hispanics come in because we're too good for that job. You know, we're not willing to do that job anymore. I mean, it's just like you said, if we said something like that, I mean, we'd just be canceled immediately.
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen. You know, it's an issue that we just saw it when we were redoing our church after the hurricane. We needed a crew to come in and do sheetrock work, and we found a crew that was Latino.
Yeah,
and they came in and they did the work quick, fast, and efficiently, and went on about their business. But the problem we had with it is we have to have, as a church, we have to have your tax ID number in order to, at the end of the year, we're supposed to send the IRS the information about how much we paid you.
Sure.
So, which I don't like, by the way, because I'm not the IRS's. I don't want to be their stool pigeon for
Yeah.
rat. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, me too.
The law, so therefore we do it. But the IRS sends us this nice little letter in the mail saying we need to, in the future, we need to make sure we get our tax ID numbers correct because the one we were given was wrong. Well, sorry, I'm not in charge of. The man gives me a tax ID number. I don't turn around and say, "You sure this is it?"
Yeah.
What he gave me. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, like now you're supposed to check into it before you hire them. You got to do a background check. What do they want?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you said, we're not their babysitters.
Work for the government. I'm sorry. Dude, I'm not doing your dirty work. You go do your dirty work.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty amazing.
Government would rather harass us than go after that guy.
Yeah.
That's what the thing is about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so here we are. We're deep into this. I'm anxious to see how this is going to go. What Trump is slick. He's smooth. He's got all kinds of things going on. What do you think about the deal in Ukraine? Have you kept up on this at all? What's going on with the peace negotiations? Have you heard anything?
Well, I haven't heard anything the last couple of days, but I knew Zelensky doesn't have a choice. He's got to come to the table.
Yeah.
He's when Trump basically kicked him out of the White House, he didn't basically kick him out of the White House. When Trump kicked him out of the White House, it was an issue that but it was an issue there that the guy was just, I don't know, he'd sat talking to Democrats for a little while maybe, and they built up his courage to take on Trump, but it was a bad mistake. It really was.
Yeah.
and so what did Trump do? He just was hands off for about a week, and Russia just pounded them for that week, with bombs and things, and all of a sudden Zelensky's like, "Hey, let's talk peace."
I'll sign. Yeah.
So
and it looks like that's going to go through from everything that I've seen.
Well,
Russia's
number one. I haven't liked since day one us sending money over there.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
If we want to send some arms and things, I don't think that's such a big issue with that. But I got a problem sending cash money over there, and that's what we've been doing.
If you get it, I don't know if you've looked. I'm sorry, say that again.
By the billions, we've been sending cash money.
Yeah, yeah. There's no way to trace it.
No, and we all know what happens with that kind of money that ends up over there. It finds its way back into the pockets of politicians, is what it does.
Sure does. Hey, what do you think about this auto sign thing? Have you heard any about this? All these pardons that.
Here's some stuff on that this week, and even last week I heard something about that. But a president has to actually sign pardons, and
that's
bills.
My understanding.
Can't auto sign bills and pardons from what I understand about the laws of our nation.
Yeah.
If he auto signed all those things, then
they're void.
They're null and void.
That's what Trump came out and said. Now it's going to have to go to the, that's one of those things where Trump's like, they're void. Somebody's going to argue about that, and the Supreme Court will have to make a decision, But it's like, who was it that talked to, Speaker of the House talked to Biden? Couldn't get in there to talk to him for 7 months. And when he talked to him, he's like, this guy didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah. He was obviously.
We know that, or at least we speculate, that Biden, the reason they're auto-signed is he didn't know what day of the week it was most of the time. And he had people around him who were doing all these things. And if they did do these things, that's actually sedition, treason.
Yeah.
It's people who are basically saying, okay, we're the president now, even though he's in there, we're going to act in his stead. That's it. That's big time illegal.
Yeah.
Actually, that's almost if I remember my history right, that's almost a death penalty thing.
Yeah, and if they can prove treasonous acts, that's death penalty stuff.
That is basically a coup that has occurred here. We have a figurehead in place, but he's not making any of the decisions. Which again, we all knew that.
Right. Yeah, everybody knew it. And this is a
all he knew was popcorn back in the day.
what kind of ice cream are you eating?
Yeah, and then the kids used to rub their hair on his legs at the pool. That's all he ever talked,
Man,
which is
what a
sick.
the I heard today on Glenn Beck said that at least 4 of these pardons were supposedly signed, and at the time that they were signed, he was out of the country.
Yes,
And they have to be signed, from what I understand, in Washington, D.C.
in
at the
country,
White. Yeah. And
press,
so
and they weren't.
there is so much that I think the Department of Justice is going to need to look into.
The pile's so big, I don't know how they'll ever do it. I really
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I'm really worried because they're taking so long. They made so many promises about these Epstein files, promises after promises, and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but
All I can see on that is that they don't want to out everybody in Washington, and that's what would do if they, not maybe not everybody, but a big majority of our Congress and Senate would be outed if they did that.
well, and I wonder if some of it isn't Pam Bondi. This is my hope, is that what she's saying is, look, Department of Justice has got to build cases against these people, and we will taint the evidence if we bring it out. But I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I don't care about all that. Put the names out there, let it be tried in the court of public, opinion. We've been waiting so long. Same thing with this Kennedy files was supposed to be coming out. We still haven't got all that. It's like, what? I want some answers. I think a lot of us just want some answers. The Democrat Party works on greed and fear. I asked this a couple weeks ago. I put this out on TikToks. I put it out on Facebook. I asked anybody to give me anything that the Democrats have done recently that doesn't rely on greed or fear. Oh no, they're going to take away Medicare. That was Al Green's thing.
Well,
After
that's
we
always that's what they always scream and shout. And they started this last week before this bill was passed. The bill, the continuing resolution, had not even been presented yet. They did not know what was in it, and yet they began to say on national news that veterans are going to lose their benefits, that Medicare was going to be cut, that Social Security was going to be messed with, and all that's a lie.
Yeah.
Every bit of that was a lie, but yet the news media took it and ran with it. That was on Friday.
Yeah,
and the bill wasn't presented in Congress until Saturday.
right.
Here's the problem with that. They do that on Friday so that it hits the news on Friday and nobody knows anything else until Monday.
Yeah.
So there's 3 days of hysteria, and people, because, bless their hearts, people just can't help but be controlled by fear.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's our, it's our very young, it's our very old, you
Yep.
know. I'm looking something up here. I sent some. No, that's not the one I wanted. Your wife actually sent something to us that I thought was really good, where she was talking. You can go and look this up, where it said that $800 million of the Ukrainian taxpayer money that we sent over there was laundered, and 29 million of it ended up back under the Clinton Foundation. And I mean, they've got the receipts where this money was brought back into the Clinton Foundation. And that's not the end of it. That's not the only place that it went. So that's pretty amazing. I was looking at something else. What we were talking about something else earlier, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. I really wanted to cover it tonight. We're 45 minutes into our show, so we don't have a lot of time left. Did you have anything else that you wanted to cover tonight before we get out of here?
Nothing I can think of offhand, but what I was talking about Barron Trump is Barron Trump was saying over the weekend on Twitter. I can't look up Twitter right now because the phone I have Twitter on is what we're using for this.
Okay.
But he was talking about on Twitter how it was happening soon.
Oh yeah.
Press would be made, and I haven't seen anything yet. I'm like, why haven't I seen anything yet? But course, here's the problem with looking up things like you're talking about with Clinton and Ukraine and that kind of stuff. These people have a lot of power,
Right.
and they have so much power that they get people to go on the internet and purge the internet of all these stories.
Mm.
And when you get to the internet, go looking stuff up, all you find is fact checkers and
Right.
ones saying that this is not true, it never happened. Like for instance, factcheck.org says Ukraine donated the most cash of any country to the Clinton Foundation, and this is false. What here's the deal. It might not be the most of any nation, but the fact is they still got a bunch of cash.
Right.
The Clinton Foundation. So, it's Saudi Arabia was pumping a lot of money in there, and they got more money than everybody in the world's got. But, so, okay, Saudi put more money into the Clinton Foundation than Ukraine did. So therefore, okay, that claim is false. So therefore, we're not going to talk about it anymore. The fact is, a lot of money did go from Ukraine to the Clinton and straight into the Clintons' pockets. Well, speaking of which, Chelsea was also getting U.S. aid money for some ungodly reason.
Oh yeah, the corruption there. I don't know that we'll ever find out the depth of all that.
I wish they would follow that corruption in this U.S. aid stuff, especially. And chances are they'd expose this very judge who passed that ruling today that they couldn't look into stuff anymore.
Oh yeah.
And it's ridiculous. It really is. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely, it stuns me. What stuns me more than anything is we've got American citizens that are against looking into this stuff. They're so that, I mean, TDS is real. This Trump derangement syndrome, it is a real thing.
Much it doesn't matter what he wants to do.
Yeah. He can come out.
It reminds me of a statement I once made in dealing with some people. And what I said was, if I was giving out gold bricks, they would complain they were too heavy.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if Trump sent $1 million to every household in America out of this Doge money they find, and he sends $1 million to every household in America, they would complain. They really would.
Yeah. So I think it was him or somebody said something about him that he could, if he saved a bag full of puppies off the road, they would write Trump hates kittens, So they're just going to get him no matter what.
Doesn't matter what he does, they're going to hate him.
It really doesn't. Well, all right, Pop. Same time. Here's the thing: is we're going to get out of here, shut her down. We're going to try to we're going to have this on podcast, and I'm not sure how this is going to work because even though they fixed our live session, you said this as we were getting messed up tonight. It's like Satan really doesn't want us talking about this stuff. He doesn't want that out there. But we're going to do it to where we can do it like this, where I can record it and then I can put it out on a podcast. So you'll be able to find it, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcast, that's where to find it. Why don't you go ahead, unless you got something else you want to talk about before we get out of here, and give us I'll pray for us this time. Are you ready for us to get out of here?
Go ahead.
All right. Father God, we thank you for this day and this time. And Lord, with all this going on, all I keep thinking of is, we're going to know the truth, and the truth is going to set us free. The light will be shown in the darkness. You are going to reveal the truth, and we just pray that you keep revealing it. You keep Trump and his folks strong, that you would open the eyes of these people who call themselves liberal Democrats, Lord. Their eyes have been blinded by Satan. They cannot see the truth. And so if you would just reveal this, open it all up, thank you for giving the United States of America what feels like another chance to serve you. We love you. We thank you. Me and Pop are very grateful that we have this opportunity to come on here and talk about your word and the way you want us to act as Christians in the world. We love you. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, my brother. Love you. Have a good night. Thanks for showing up, and next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Oh, you know what? We should have a little. Yeah. Talk to you later. All right. Thank y'all for joining us. We sure appreciate y'all. And